What's up, good people? David Taub here from nextlevelguitar.com, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar techniques. I got a lot of emails, we get a lot of emails here at Next Level Guitar about tone and about how to cop that tone and that monster tone that he had and that feel. And I want to talk to you a little bit today about how to go about it in your playing a little bit to get you closer. Okay? Now, I'm a firm believer that tone is truly in your hands and in your heart. You know, I think that Stevie Ray Vaughan could have probably plugged into any amp and played any guitar and he would have still had that Stevie Ray Vaughan monster tone. And I think, just like I think that Eddie Van Halen can plug into any guitar and play through any amp and he's going to sound like Eddie Van Halen. The tone is really in your hands, in my opinion. How you bend the strings, how you attack the strings, the intervals that you're playing, your style and technique. That's where those signature tones and sounds come in. So it's really in your hands. And if you go to our website at nextlevelguitar.com, we have a few lessons there on how tone is in your hands, and I illustrate those points. You might want to check those out if you like. However, there are some things that you can do that will get you closer to that Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of real bluesy, rock, edgy kind of monster, a thick tone that he had, especially his lead tone. So I want to go over some of those things with you, and then I'm going to start to go over some of the techniques that he did and things that he played as far as technique-wise. Some of the techniques in his playing that you can do quite quickly and really add that to your playing, because I think that's important, especially if you liked his style of playing. I think that we all as guitar players are kind of amalgamates or combinations of our influences, right? We take little bits and pieces from each person or persons or group or band or musicians that we like, and we kind of make that into our own and add a healthy dose of yourself. Hopefully. For instance, me, I'm probably a combination of my influences. Guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, Joe Satriani, Gary Moore, Robert Cray, B.B. King, and a healthy dose of me. So I kind of take a little bit of all that stuff that I like from all of those good people, throw it in a pot, do my own thing, and you get me, you know. So, and I think, personally I think, and again, these are just my opinions, that's what a lot of people do as guitar players, and that's what a lot of us do, you know. We're a product of our influences, you know, an amalgamate, so to speak. So let's talk a little bit about Stevie Ray Vaughan and his trademark sounds, and where I think, in my opinion, what I hear, what it's coming from. A couple things first on gear. Stevie Ray Vaughan liked the Fender Stratocaster, clearly. You know, that was his instrument of choice. And he really played a lot out of the neck pickup. That's the pickup I was using in that little intro original thing that I wrote. Neck pickup. And sometimes he played out of the neck and the middle pickups, okay? So if you have a Fender Stratocaster, and most of them, if you put your switch all the way up, you're usually going to be playing out of the neck pickup, and your second position is usually combination of these two or your middle pickup. All right, all the way up, neck pickup, a lot of his stuff. The other thing that's very trademark is he used really thick heavy gauge strings. That's really important to get close to the sound. I use 11 gauge strings, which are pretty thick. He used up to 12s. I use 11 to 52s on the lows. And they're thick, and it took me a while when I was developing my style to be able to play on these because it's a lot harder to bend strings. The action has to be higher so the strings can ring out a little bit because they're thicker, and it's generally much harder to play than a guitar with like 9s, which is the standard gauge. But I like that thick monster tone that you can get from the thicker strings, and that's why I string up and reset up all my guitars with 11 gauge strings for the most part. So try it. If you play with 9s, maybe go up to 10s first, then go up to 11s. But know this, that once you start changing your string gauges, especially bumping up to the higher gauge, you're going to have to reset up some of the adjustments on your guitar. Remember, the guitar is a machine. It has moving parts and requires maintenance. And there's a lot of tension, these strings pulling on the neck. And the thicker the strings, the more tension. So your neck is going to want to do this on the guitar. And it's going to pull, if you have a floating bridge or a tremolo, it's going to pull that up. So there's two screws in the back that go into the body on Fender Strats on the non-hardtails, where you can, tighten or loosen those, and it will bring this bridge piece up or down. You're going to have to adjust that. You're going to probably have to adjust these little Allen screws to adjust the action, and then you're probably most definitely going to have to adjust the neck through the tremolo, not the tremolo, the truss rod, I'm sorry, because you might have to give it a half a turn to bring it back. Okay, and if you're not sure on those adjustments, you might want to go to our website, nextlevelguitar.com, and we'll help you out with that. So just know, if you go and throw a set of 11 gauge strings on your guitar that's set up for 9s, you're going to go to play it and you're going to be like, oh my god, the strings are an inch off the fretboard. You got to reset it up. Well worth it. It's just going to take some time to get used to the thicker strings. I think it's used to it. So if you're playing any kind of blues or blues rock and you're playing with 9s, you might want to bump up to 10s, 11s, 12s. Like I said, I like 11s. I just like the way they feel. Then when I go on a guitar and it has 9s, I'm like, oh my god, I'm like flying, because it's like nothing. It's like butter. A lot of my students, when they come over and they play my guitars, they don't like them because they're used to low action and 9s, which is fine. Find what you like. I like a little higher action. I like the notes to ring out a little more, and I like the 11 gauge. So find what you like. Stevie Ray used at least 11s and 12s, at least early in his career. Later in his career, he bumped it down a little bit. So that's part of the sound. Now, it's going to rip your fingers up a little bit once you start playing with these thicker strings. They're going to start to crack, and especially the fingertips. And if you want to play through that, if you get a little crack or it's starting to bother you, a simple trick is just get a little crazy glue. It sounds crazy, but it works. In fact, that's what Stevie Ray did. That's where I learned that trick, from reading an article. His guitar tech, sometimes between songs or sets, would go and put crazy because his hands would just get ripped up because he was just such an aggressive player with such thick strings. So just put a little crazy glue on your fingertips if they're really cracking and hurting and you can't play, and that'll put a little shield there. So that, a little tip for you. So the 11 gauge strings are going to take some getting used to, but I like the guitar fighting back a little bit and fighting for those notes. It makes you work harder. As well as using the thicker strings is going to make your hands stronger. And like I said before, I'm a big believer in tone is in your hands. I'm a right-handed player, so my left hand I feel is really strong because I use such heavy gauge strings, and I think that's to my advantage. The stronger the hand, the more I can really work the notes and bend and vibrato and get more tone out of the guitar. So I think it's in everyone's best interest, if you want a lot of tone, if you really like that thick meaty tone, really get your hands strong. The stronger the better. And you can really work those notes more and bend 3, 4, 5 times, bend up a minor third, 3 frets, 2 frets. Stevie Ray Vaughan, big string bender. Big bends like Jimi Hendrix was, like David Gilmour, step and a half or a minor third, two frets, two whole steps, almost to the point where the strings were breaking, right? So Fender Stratocaster, action set higher, 11 gauge strings, 12 gauge strings, neck pickup, okay, and that will get you closer, you know, to that signature kind of single coil, throaty kind of sound. Sometimes he did play through these 2 pickups in this position here. See, it sounds little bit different. There's our neck pickup, and here's these 2, a little more trebly. Here's the same lick. Okay, one other thing I wanted to mention about Stevie Ray's tone and whatnot is most of his stuff, if not all of it, he was tuned down to E flat. Okay, so, and I'm tuned to E flat right now. So what you have to do is you have to drop each string down half a step. So low to high, your pitches should be E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, and E flat, which is actually kind of cool because it gives a guitar, I think, a little heavier sound. Plus, if you have really thick strings, it makes it easier to bend them because it's a half step lower. You're taking that half step tension off the neck. So E flat tuning across the board works out really well.